Hello friends, welcome to my channel Sushant. Today we are at the next lesson, that is we are going to look at a game from my Matrix Cup tournament and this is going to be the round 4. We have discussed till round 3 so far, and in this game there are two very important concepts that we are going to come across. One is the use of two bishops, that is the bishop pair advantage, why it is slightly better than bishop and knight, and other is the use of queenside pawn majority. So let's get started with the game. E4, E6, D4, D5, and D2. I usually play the Tarrasch variations. Sometimes I use advance or maybe the exchange variation also. With this move, white supports the E4 pawn, and one benefit is that if the knight is on C3, black can play BB4, which is not possible here. But you can see that the C1 bishop is stuck, but white has some other plans of his own. Black played C5. After e takes d5, now ed gives us the position of IQP. Black will have the isolated pawn, and white often has at least a slight edge because of his move advantage. So white can play nf3, bb5 check, castle, and later dc5 or cd4, gives black an isolated d pawn for which he has some active pieces. So my opponent chooses the sharp line queen d5, which is sharp because black is looking to create an imbalance, which white also doesn't mind. White plays nf3, offering the pawn on d4 for the time being. So it's a very enterprising line, and both need to know the theory here. Bishop c4, queen d6, and white wants to round off the pawn with nb3 and nd4, but nb3 instantly allows qb4 check. Thus castle, nf6, nb3, nc6. You must have noted that it's very difficult to protect the pawn on d4, because here see if black played e5, there would be knight takes c5 and rook e1. So nc6, nd4, knight takes d4, and here the main line is the move knight takes d4. I thought over here for a while. I was trying to recollect the theory. I knew the line to some extent. I will show you how much I knew. After a6 here, rook e1, there are some other moves as well. qc7, bishop moves back to b3, bd6, and here I had prepared the move nf5, but I was not able to remember the theory very clearly. After bh2, kh1, castle, here there is ng7. I knew this, but I thought since the opponent is also playing very confidently, he must be knowing this line, and if he changes some move somewhere, I was not very sure about this variation. But this position you must know is clearly better for white. After kg7, there can be the move qd2 and also qf3. Thus, I decided to go with the move queen d4, queen takes d4, knight d4. The reason being, white has 3 pawns on the queen side against black's 2. So he can try to push those pawns quicker than black, because black cannot move his 4 pawns on the king side because of the presence of king over there. So position is slightly better for white, but white has a clear-cut plan. Of course, now nb5 is coming, so black goes a6, and here I play a very strange move. I don't know whether it is the best move, but I play b2. Idea is to go bf3 and play c4 at some point. c4 will stop nd5, and we can look to push those pawns at the earliest. Let's see how. My opponent goes e5, good move I feel. It takes the control of center, pushes the knight back, and knight b3 I feel would be a bit misplaced over here. So I went nf3. If e4, then again the knight can go to d4, and e4 might become weak. So bd6, rd1, bc7, and I had this plan in mind to play bg5. See, not really to create bf6 double pawn very early, but rather to develop the bishop, free the c1 square for the rook. White aims c4, b4, c5, and he may need the rook on the c1 square. So that is one of his main ideas, to push the queenside pawns. So my opponent went bf5. I think this is a slight mistake because bc2 is not a threat. I went nh4. I had a distinct idea in mind. I thought if the opponent goes b6, that is his better option, then I would take on f6 and play bd3. But if he goes bc2 here, then after rook c1, bg6, I will just take on g6 and rook c7, and white is winning. My opponent went bg6 here, and to which I thought it's ideal to play the move c4. With c4, we stop the move nd5 permanently. I want c5 as I said. Okay. So ne4 attacks the bishop. I think this is a dubious move. Bishop e3, just the bishop gets a better placing. c5 will be very easy to get now. He goes f6 back and now I take ng6. Perhaps he wanted me to go for this. But now what I wanted, I got all that. I have the two bishops which control the c5, c4 square. The pawn on queen side, they need constant protection. The passer which will come up, that needs support of the bishop. And here I had a clear plan to play c5 and use the d5 square. See what I am talking about is, my opponent went e4, attacking h2. I go h3. He plays good move be5. And now see, I had this plan clearly in my mind that I want b4. I don't want to play rook b1 right now. Rook b1 may allow a5. So rook c1, and see if he does bb2, then rook b1, be5, rook b7. And see what happens here. White easily gets the first pawn. After castle c6 or rook c1, white is clearly better. He's not winning, but this is a very comfortable position to play. So my opponent goes after rook c1 castle and I get b4. This was the plan. I had calculated till the move rook d8 and when I wanted to use c4. See, this is the power of the bishop over the knight. First the bishop controls the square where the knight can advance. This is called restraint. We don't allow the knight to come ahead. Then gradually we push it back. We'll come to that soon. I was also considering the move rook d8. I spent decent amount of time here seeing rook d8, c6, bc, rc6. This is indeed tempting. a6 is weak. But after nd5, I felt like this is not the best thing to do. I have to retreat bd2 and maybe he has an f4 or bf4. So it's not a very pleasant position to have. After see bishop f4 takes knight f4, black is becoming active. So I went bc4. And now b2. I went rook b1 and I knew my opponent wants bc3. He wants to threaten rook d1 followed by bb4. Here I spent some time and I could sense here that that knight on f6 is not well placed. I need the move bd5. Once I get bd5, I am winning. It simply attacks b7 and the e4 pawns. Okay. So here my main focus was on the move g4. See, this is the way. First the knight was restrained and now the knight will be pushed back. Now see, the rook gets access to the 7th rank. After g5, knight h5, rook d7. My main line was rook c8. See, after rook f8, rook b7, white is almost winning. The c pawn advances. After rook c8, I was going to play either bf7 or rook b7. But I looked at this line. Rook b7, bc5, bf7, kh7, be6, thinking that white is winning. But unfortunately, see, only rook c6 wins because of bd7. But in the other line, rook e8, black survives after bd7, re5. But here, white should play first bf7 check, push the king to h7, and now instead of rook b7, white has the very strong move rook d6, which I looked briefly, but I didn't see further because see, there is now this is winning actually because bc5 loses to bg6 check, kg8 takes and rd8 mate. My opponent went rook e8 here and I felt after rook e8 white is easily on the top of his game. It's a winning position. There comes g5, knight h5, rook d7. Now see, the pawn is lost and the c pawn will be free. Rook f8 forced, rook takes b7, rook d8, c6, and now I'm already threatening c7. So my opponent goes rook c8, trying to control the pawn. If c7 instantly, there will be be5. So I thought, let's push the pawns together, and I went with the move. First bd5, keep the pawn on c6, show that I'm attacking e4, but I had other plan in mind. After b5, I didn't bother to take on e4. I just went a4. See, we need b5 and b6 and quickly settle the game. See, I generally don't like to win too much material. Just whatever we get, try to finish off the game quickly. So nf4, bf4, bf4, b5. AB, AB. Many may think that there are opposite colored bishops here, but see, the pass pawns are very strong. Black is not able to get 2 pawns for his bishop also. So white will win very easily. Now see E3, only try perhaps takes KG2, and after BG5 there is just the C7 and B6. So rook C D8. Now white has to be a bit careful. A hasty combination can ruin the thing. I just played rook D1. I calculated the line. BF7 though. See, takes. And after C7, rook C8, one should always look at these points. Now see B6. But the problem is that just bishop takes B6, rook B6, RC7, and the game is drawn. So I went rook D1 here, and after rook D1, BG5, C7, it's a winning game now. If rook C8 is played, then just BC6 idea, BD7. See, B6 and BD7, game over. My opponent played rook E8 and I just did BC6 because the point is that after rook C8 we will do BD7 and after RE2 check king F1 I saw this rook C2 and white finishes the game, which you must have found by now, the move rook B8. Game over. There is no difference to rook F8 followed by C8 queen and white of course wins. So my opponent resigned over here. I hope you must have enjoyed this game. Do let me know in the comments below. Thanks for your time.